Wow, the fury crafting I have right now. Like, oh my fucking god, the fury crafting I have right now with the ending of this chapter. Okay, I had a fellow Chibit that constantly sends me messages, and we talk about furies on Facebook about, you know, Taizai, what's going on. We look at the different legends of, you know, just, you know, Taizai kind of represents, like, different legends in the past. And last week, when the Balor's Eye got introduced, a fellow Chibit let me know exactly where Balor's Eye came from, and the meaning behind it. Supposedly, from what we got from last week, the description, it was the evil eye of Balor, but we didn't get the full description on the eye. I'm going to have the link to the myth of Balor's Eye in the description if you want to see it for yourself. Now, the reason why I know this is relevant is because the mangaka Nakaba-sensei has used legends from myths, mythology, and different things since the course of this series. Majority of names for this series has been related to myths. It has. And all the names of the 7 deadly sins pretty much relate to different myths and creatures. And so, I want to read off what I felt was interesting about this myth, about Balor, that links with the ending of this chapter and last chapter. Okay, so the king states, like, there's an omen of the Holy War. He says that. And the next Holy War is going to be happening in Camelot. It's going to be happening in Camelot, the kingdom to the south. He states this. The king actually states that there will be, like, a giant that pretty much approaches. Like, here's the actual, like, prophecy he makes. The prophecy the actual king makes says, "A beast with the likeness of a mountain shall awaken. Their 3 heroes will stand up against it. Darkness shall bore a great hole in the land." Now, let's take a couple backpedals back. Let's just step back real quick and think about this, okay? What part in this series, let's think about this, has a giant-ass hole in the land? Danafor. Remember what Meliodas said he did in the past, at the beginning of the series. He was in a mindless rage and wrath, and there was a giant asshole. This entire kingdom was gone, and you saw this hole that had no bottom. Now, this is where it gets interesting. The myth of Balor's Eye. This is the actual myth. A myth that's been passed down for a long time now. The myth on Balor's Eye is this. Balor was the embodiment of the evil eye. He had the evil eye. He was a cyclops. A giant-ass cyclops. He was a giant. What do we see at the end of this chapter? A giant dude looking over Camelot. Balor was slain in legend, saying his eye was still open when he fell face first into the ground. And his deadly eye burned a hole into the earth when it was still open. What type of hole was burned into the earth in this series already? Danafor. Giant ass hole. A giant. The king of the capital in this chapter states that there will bore another hole into the earth. Another great hole will be bored into the hole. Another great hole will happen and be put into the earth. So, there's 2 possible things that's going on here. Either that's Balor that we saw at the end of this chapter, or Meliodas is going to have a repeat of what he did in Danafor with his rage. We're going to see a repeat of that. Now, the 3 heroes. My assumption of the 3 heroes is this. I personally don't believe it's Meliodas and his party. I think it's these. Bon, King, Jericho. 3 heroes. Right there. Makes a lot of sense. 3 heroes right now because, I mean, we don't have 3 currently with Meliodas. We have more than 3. So, yeah. Bon, Jericho, King make up that overall prophecy. They will go to Camelot. The question is it really them? But it's not just that. The myths. When I was reading into Balor when he was a giant, supposedly Balor had 3 sons. He had 3 sons, and the Druidess that came to save, like, one of the sons, to manage to save one of the sons before they were killed, was the one that slayed Balor. And Balor fell into the ground and died and put a giant-ass hole into the ground. We don't necessarily know the events that wrap around Danafor when it got destroyed by Meliodas, supposedly. We don't know the events. So, my assumption, since the mangaka has used myths a lot, even introducing the Balor's Eye. Like I said, if you want to see it for yourself, go in the description, look at the link. It's insane when you see something like this. So, clearly where I see this going is that the manga is setting up for either Meliodas to have a reenactment of what happened in the past if he did cause Danafor, or that is Balor, or someone related to Balor's Eye. And it's not just that, too. There's other hints in this chapter that just does not relate to this ending. My theory on Gowther and Merlin, and a bunch of us Chibits have discussed, seem to be becoming true. Because Gowther says some very interesting dialogue. He states that he was loaded with the Balor's Eye. He was loaded with being able to detect power levels. Loaded. What does loaded usually stand for? If you put it into something, it means they're like a machine, or a creature, or someone that's been artificially made. What have I talked about a lot? I've said that maybe Gowther could be a homunculi. And also, some Chibits have said he's probably a succubus. I mean, summoned. So, the theories are endless right now. And it's not just that either. Also in this chapter, along with Gowther saying that he was loaded with this Balor's Eye type power, we see Gowther making things. Like familiars. Making little spiritual flying elemental type creatures. You see like a bird. You see like a dragon. And then you see a flying pig. Think about this for a second, okay? What type of character in this series has supposedly been reincarnated? Hawk. What did he come from? A parrot. And what did Meliodas see him as the next time he met him? A pig. It's strange how Merlin made a bird at the beginning and then a flying type pig at the end. It's very strange. It's those subtle hints. Now, what's even more interesting about this is the dialogue that Merlin actually stated in this. That really shocked me. I want to actually find it because I want to actually say it. Okay. Meaning can be found in something meaningless. That's what Merlin even states in this chapter. Meaning can be found in something that is meaningless. So is this a false trail that the manga is setting up, or is this some other forms of way for the mangaka to be foreshadowing what we saw in this chapter? Also, what's even interesting about this is, once again, my theories about Hendrickson are becoming more and more true. Hendrickson, we get to see a little bit of his good side in the past. Supposedly, he used to protect the three misfits, Grimoire, Gil, and Hauser. He protected them. He would talk to Zarathustra, and he would try to protect them, make them, you know, be a lot better example. Like, he would just try to protect them, pretty much. And the thing is, we saw that kind side to him. It's all constantly in the past when we see flashbacks with Hendy. It always has good flashbacks. He always looks like a nice, caring dude. And even Dreyfus, before he died, he stated he was so different. Like, what happened? As I've said in my multiple theories of Hendrickson when it was still going on, I believe Hendrickson was a puppet. He was getting manipulated by a demon clan or something. He was a puppet. He was a puppet being played like a fucking fiddle, or like, you know, he had the puppet strings on him. That's pretty much what Hendrickson was. And it's becoming more and more true. And with the introduction of the Balor's Eye, it makes so much more sense. And also, with this latest episode of Taizai, it brings up some interesting questions, too. In the latest episode of Taizai, which I completely forgot about that overall dialogue that Diane said, she supposedly said in the past, she once had a very good friend called Matrona. Go look up some myths on Matrona real quick, okay? Go look at mythology on Matrona, and you will shit a fucking brick. You will shit a brick. I promise you that. I will have a link in the description. I'm not even going to go into it, because the evidence is true. The mangaka setting up some stuff here is fucking ridiculous. Like I said, the foreshadowing of this manga Nakaba is insane. And this is why Taizai is fucking greatness. When you start seeing the correlations with some of these myths and how they've actually played out and they follow the proper kind of storylines but a little bit of a twist, is interesting. Very, very fucking interesting. So, I'm impressed. I am very, very impressed with how, once again, the manga sets up the seedlings of foreshadowing and future events. Like this, the setup for the Balor Balor's return or Balor's eye or someone related to Balor or similar to him is ridiculous. Once again, more evidence that Merlin and Gowther are working together and they're probably evil. More fucking evidence. And more evidence that Hawk is probably created by Merlin. Now, moving past that, I actually want to talk about the power levels. Yes, I write all this shit down because there's just so much in Taizai you gotta write because there are subtle freaking hints. Supposedly, from what we found out, power levels can actually differ. For instance, it's just a rough estimate, pretty much, when you use the Balor's Eye. Like, supposedly, you know, like Meliodas last chapter being over 3,000 something, he was ridiculous. Well, in this chapter, Merlin is at 4 fucking thousand? Whoa! 4,000 power level. Merlin. Meliodas is only shown to be 3,000 something. What? The fuck? Now, thankfully, Merlin and Gowther stated this. Power levels depend on the situation, the condition, and your, I guess, compatibility with whatever is going on. For instance, the person you fight. So, what we also find out, Merlin states that all the sins have a base power level, like they're all over 3,000 power level. They're all over. That's their base, pretty much, as far as it'll go, like down. But Merlin wasn't even fighting, or trying to fight. Why would Merlin have such an absurdly high fucking power, when Merlin shouldn't even be ready for combat? Why does Merlin have such a fucking strong ass power level, when Meliodas was fighting? You see what I'm getting here? Why is Merlin so high up right now? Because if this is not the actual accurate descriptions of their power level, like this is just rough estimates depending on the situation, Merlin could be like 10,000 something. And so could Meliodas. This is not even factoring in the demon forms and stuff. So, interesting. So, since we found out it's rough estimates, of course it cannot calculate Meliodas' demon form. Or when he has his sacred treasure. So, that's pretty fucking scary if you think about it. Interesting. Very, very, very interesting. I will say, I clap for the manga. Setup is fucking ridiculous. It is ridiculous. It's so obvious Merlin is evil. It's so obvious. I see the shit. I see that, and I've been calling it since Merlin's return. Merlin is fucking evil. I see it. The evidence is there. It is. It's so there. But, well, who knows? Who fucking knows? Overall, I think I'm just gonna end it here. There's a lot more theories I can dive into, but yeah. I'm just gonna keep this video at an actual natural length instead of having it go into 30-something minutes, because I would like to actually get a Berserk review out today. So, you all have a wonderful day or night wherever you live, and tell me your thoughts about some of these myths. It's fucking ridiculous. So, you all have a wonderful day or night wherever you live. Please be safe. Chibi out.